Welcome to Pierce Productions. My name is Trace, and today I'm going to be talking about the new Netflix 10-part series, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer stories. This series follows the horrific crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer, and we see him portrayed by Evan Peters. Now, alongside in supporting roles, we have Richard Jenkins as Mr. Dahmer, Jeffrey's father, and Niecy Nash as his next door neighbor. Right off the bat, Evan Peters continues to give chilling performances, and if you've seen his work with stuff like American Horror Story, he's a legacy actor with that series. He's been there from the start, and each time he just ups his ante. And Ryan Murphy's worked with him for a very long time, and you can tell that within this series, even though Ryan Murphy wasn't directing the episodes, he was producing it, and he talked to Evan Peters before he accepted this role, and he was telling him, listen, we're not doing this in the perspective of Jeffrey Dahmer. We're doing this on how it affected the community and the family's point of view and the victim's point of view and the neighbor's point of view. And you can clearly see that direction in this series, which I really appreciated, that we saw how his actions affected everyone else around him. The acting in this is top notch. Netflix continues to deliver TV shows that are just extraordinary. I don't know what is going on with their movie department, but when it comes to their TV shows, they always crank out great stuff. Evan Peters, I feel like this is his best role and performance that he's ever given. Now, the character that he's playing of Jeffrey Dahmer is very one note, a very monotone character, but he can go from sinister to smiling in such a breeze, and it's terrifying. And even when he's not talking, his body motions and movements and his facial expressions are just bone chilling. Now, some of the best acting in this entire show comes from Niecy Nash, who plays the next door neighbor. Now, I know her from Reno 911. And for the longest time, that is the only thing that I knew her from. So seeing her in this, I thought was going to be strange because I only see her in that comedic cop role in that mockumentary series. But she showed me a different side of her that I didn't know that she had, and she blew me away. And she's not just a little supporting character. She's in this series throughout the entire thing, and near the butt end of the series, the last two episodes, they really flesh out her character even more than they've already done and give her more screen time. And by that time, within the last two episodes, you've already invested your time with this character, so seeing more of her is just great. The first episode was probably the hardest to watch because I didn't know how far they were going to push the limits of this show. The stuff that Jeffrey Dahmer has done, when you read about everything that he's done, is just pure evil. So dealing with these families within the show and the natures of everything he's done, there's a fine line, and they rode that line pretty thin because there was parts in here that I almost had to pause the show. I mean, he's drinking blood, he's eating body parts, he's cuddling up next to dead bodies, and it's just frightening at times. Now, even though the first episode was the hardest to get through because I didn't know what bar they were going to set for the rest of the series, episode 6 primarily deals with the victim of Tony Hughes. That is the best episode in the entire series. They spent pretty much the whole episode building up this character and giving you these layers and depths of this character to make you really, truly care and make you feel like you're part of his family. And even though I knew how that episode was going to end, for some reason I was just hoping that it wouldn't end the way that history had it, because I felt connected to this character. I wanted to see him succeed, and I wanted, the best life that he could have had and promised for his family. So that was also a difficult episode to get through because they did so much character development with that character. They did it with all the characters in this show, but with that specific character of Tony Hughes, that one really stuck out to me. Now, when you're watching this episode, aside from all the sickening things that you're going to have to endure watching this, you do learn a lot about a person's psyche and what they have to go through and what they're thinking. Now, Another thing within this show is they do jump through time back and forth rather frequently. I kind of wish that they didn't do that as much because there was certain points where I was trying to connect the dots of when something took place, and I did get confused a couple times and it took me a second to, connect all the dots. But they do jump around a lot. They spent a lot of time of him as a child, and I understand why they did that, but I do wish that those portions were just cut just a little bit more. And talking about cutting portions more of the show, this thing is 10 episodes. It easily could have been 7 or 8. I do feel like there was a lot of fluff. Now, the episodes range from 40 minutes to an hour. Not every episode is the same length of time, but I do feel that there was enough stuff within this series that they still could have relayed the same message to you and given you the same character development without the extra fluff. The last 2 or 3 episodes really start to drag on when he's in prison. I get that that was part of history and that was part of what happened, but they could have done and conveyed all the messages they needed to within 1 or 2 episodes rather than 2 or 3 episodes, and maybe even cut some of the prison scenes and given more time to how the community dealt with everything that was happening and the families themselves, because it spent a lot of time on just one specific family of a 14-year-old victim, but we didn't see more, I feel like, of the other families. Now, I would recommend this show if this topic of serial killers and real life crime interests you, but just keep in mind it's a long watch, it's a big commitment, and at times it's really tough to watch. So just keep that in mind. They don't sway away from showing blood, and they don't sway away from the graphic content that is in this show. Would I like to see another anthology series like this from Ryan Murphy? I do feel like he could take the same concept and put it towards other people. Now, they teed up Ed Gein and they teed up John Wayne Gacy, so I don't know if he has that in his back pocket and he might be leaning into those later in the future. I'm not sure, but they do involve those storylines very briefly, so I do feel like that was Ryan Murphy kind of setting something up for the future if he were to have an idea to do another 8 to 10 part series on another serial killer throughout history. So those are my quick thoughts on Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Once again, it is available on Netflix, all 10 episodes. If you enjoyed my thoughts on this series, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below.
Star Wars,